Hi, Math 10. Sorry I'm not there with you again today. I'm taking care of my dad. He's making some good progress and hopefully going to rehab, which is a good place for him to go. So my time is well spent, I promise. All right, so you have your notes in front of you. You're working on skill 30 right now. I think this lesson is going to be really great for you guys because you guys have worked on equations before. So I'm not overly worried about this. I think you guys will be rock stars. So we're going to do one-step equations. And then our second skill we're going to do today, skill 31, is going to be rearranging equations, which is a little bit different, but yet kind of the same. So again, I think you'll be okay with that skill as well. I'm pretty confident you'll be great. So let's go ahead and start filling things in if you haven't already. An equation says that two expressions are the same by using the equal sign and other mathematical symbols. Equations can be solved. Set notation uses, and we call those, I don't know what particularly everybody else says, I call those brackets to denote the solution set of an equation. Solutions to equations can also be represented as a point on a number line, and we might do a little bit of graphing, but we'll probably do more graphing when you get back from break, and we will do more graphing when we're dealing with the inequalities, because that seems to be more of the time and when we're going to do that. Okay, so if you look at the examples, they gave you two things that are equations, right? 2x plus 4 equals 6, 1/2 x equals -4. There's expressions on either side of an equal sign, and I'm sure you guys have heard the idea of it being balanced, which are the next couple of blanks. Every time you rewrite an equation, the equations are equivalent. That's why it has an equal sign on both the left and the right. They are balanced. Any transformations to one equation must be done on both the right and the left-hand side. Opposites, we've talked about opposites before this year, adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing. The opposites undo each other. So if you have something that's being added, you subtract it. If you have something being divided, you multiply it. So that'll be fine. Second thing in that box says inverse operations help you isolate the variable in an equation. That is your goal. When you are solving an equation, your goal is to get the variable completely by itself. And so that's the work that you're going to do. Example 1, adding to each side. So x minus 5 is equal to -13. You need to get the x by itself. So you're going to add 5 to both sides, and x is equal to -1. Now, it's not shown here, but I know that you can check all of your work. So you can take that -8, plug it back into the original equation, and make sure that it works. So you can go ahead and plug in a -8. So -8 minus 5, -8 minus 5 is equal to -13. You can check and make sure you did it correctly. Go to example 2, heads up on that, and you can't, I didn't write it in the directions, but you see parentheses in there, right? So if there are parentheses in your equation, what should you be thinking? What is the step you're going to do, which is distribution. So you have to distribute. So now the question is, what do you need to distribute? Do you guys have any guesses on what you're distributing? I am concerned that you are guessing 4x. 4x is not what you are distributing. You are distributing what is directly in front of the parentheses. What is directly in front of the parentheses? Right there, there's a negative sign. If we want to associate it to a number, we can say that that's a -1. So it becomes a -3x and a +5. You are distributing, again, a -1. So then you go ahead and look at this. You have a -4x and a -3x. Those are called like terms. You put them together with a -7x. Now you need to, and this all got done in one step. If you don't understand, but that's okay. You can move the 2x to this side by subtraction. You can move the 5 to that side by subtraction. So both of those got moved in the same step. You subtracted the 2x, you subtracted the 5, and you get -9x equals 6. Divide by that -9. That is a fraction, and so your answer is a -2/3. Yes, I know you don't like it, but you should be giving me fractional answers. Please don't give me decimals. Give me some fractions. Okay, let's keep going. Actually, you know what? why don't you guys go ahead and take a second and try and do example 3 and 4 on your own. I'm going to ask the sub to go ahead and pause the video, give everybody a minute or two to work on examples 3 and 4. All right, guys, you should be back. Let's check those answers. The answer for number 3 should be R is equal to negative 15. And the answer for number 4 is W is equal to 100. Example 3, I'm confident most of all of you got. The example 4, I know fractions are not your favorite. So you have to look at what is going on between 1/5 and W. You could consider that being multiplication. How do you undo multiplication? Dividing. How do you divide by fractions? Multiply by the reciprocal. What is the reciprocal of 1/5? It's 5. So 20 times 5 gets you 100. Again, that's a concept that you guys should be able to remember. All right, same deal. I'm going to give you guys a chance to work on example 5 and 6. Go ahead and solve those for me, and I'll be back in a second to give you guys the answers. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, I'm back. Let's see what the answers are. Example number 5, you should be dividing by a -9, so k is equal to -12. Number 6, I hope you did 2 steps. You should subtract that 7, but notice that that t is not alone yet. There's a negative attached to that. Again, we've had that conversation. What is that negative? That's actually a -1. So you have to divide by a -1 to get your answer. So t is equal to a -13. Please double check that and be so careful with things that look like that. Your favorite story problems, I know you guys love them, so here they are. A tree was 4 feet tall when it was planted. It grows 2 feet a year. The equation 2y plus 4 equals 16 can be solved to find how many years it will be taken for the tree to grow to a height of 16. Find the number of years it will take. So all you have to do is solve that equation. They already did all the hard work. So first step, you're going to go ahead and subtract 4. So 2y is equal to 12. Then divide by 2. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. And so your label on that, although it's not written in the notes and it should be, the answer would be that it would be 6 years. The correct label would be 6 years. Then it says to graph it on a number line. We haven't graphed on number lines in a while, but there's a number line for you, and 6 is the only number that's shaded in because that is a solution. Now the question is, do equations always have a solution? And I think you guys have been exposed to the possibility that it doesn't. Sometimes equations have no solution, and sometimes equations have an infinite number of solutions. Those are special cases. So that's what you're going to look at next. One solution if the variable does not cancel out when simplified. That's a normal equation. You guys have solved those already in the previous 6 examples. You solve them, you find x. If the variables cancel out and you get what I call a false statement, you get no solution. So let's look at that example. You would move the 2x to the other side. And so 2x minus 2x, the x's cancel out, they're gone. And so you have a statement of -1 equals -3. Well, does that make sense? No, -1 doesn't equal -3. So therefore that's a no solution. Infinitely many solutions if both sides of the equation simplify to the same value. Again, your variables cancel out, they're gone, but you get a true statement. So when you go ahead and do this work, you put your like terms together. So 3x plus 2x is 5x. You subtract the 5x to this side, and you have -6 equals -6. Well, does it? Yeah. So infinitely many solutions is what you're working with that. Okay. So that was solving. Again, I probably went through that quickly, but you guys have solved equations before. I don't think it's going to be a problem. This next skill might be a little bit new to you guys, solving equations in terms of a variable. You are not going to get a single answer like you are used to. What you are going to get is, like, if you have a formula like volume is equal to base times height times length, or I should say length, height, and width. All of those variables are still going to be in your final answer. So you're, again, not finding a certain number, you are literally rearranging it. Let's go ahead and fill in some blanks. Sometimes equations are not solved for a specific value of a variable. Instead, they are solved in terms of a specific variable. So, how to solve for a specific variable? Identify the variable, perform inverse operations until the variable is isolated. This is identical to what we were doing. It doesn't change anything. So, D is equal to RT is your original equation. It says solve for rate. Well, rate is R, so we need to get the R by itself. So, you're going to divide, it says solve for rate. Those notes are wrong. To solve for rate, you're going to divide by t, so divide by time. And so you should have R is equal to D over T. R is equal to D over T. What's written on there is actually solving for time, which is fine. It's another rearranging. But notice, nothing is gone. You have all the same variables. They're just moved around. So instead of it saying D equals, it says R equals or T equals. Example number 2, volume is equal to length, width, and height. That's what I was just talking about. It says solve for length. So you have to move the W and the H. Notice the W and the H can move together. So they're being multiplied to the L. You're going to divide by the W and the H. So V over WH is equal to L. That's your answer. There's nothing else you can do. As long as the L is by itself, you've done what they've asked you to do. So those two were formulas. Can you do the same thing with regular equations? And the answer is yes. Yes, we can. So it says solve for y. Negative 2x plus y is equal to 18. What do you have to move away from the y to get it by itself? Well, you need to move the negative 2x. It's a negative 2x, so you need to add it to the other side. Now here's the question. Can you add that 18 and that 2x? And I hope you're saying no, but do you know why not? Because they are not like terms. 18 and 2x aren't like terms, so you can't actually add them together. So your answer is simply y equals 18 plus 2x. Number 4, look at the work that's shown. I'm interested to see if anybody can tell me, what is that first step going on there? 1/7 x plus 3y equals 2, and they have it in parentheses with a 7 outside. Anybody know what that's going on? They are getting rid of the fractions. I know you guys, some of you don't like fractions, so that's an answer. If you don't like fractions, get rid of them. Why are they picking a 7? Because the 7 is your denominator. So if you multiply the entire equation by your denominator, you actually get rid of the fractions. So it becomes x plus 21y equals 14. The directions say solve for x, so you subtract the 21y to the other side. Again, the 14 and the 21y are not like terms. You can't put them together, so you just leave it like it is. X equals 14 minus 21y. All right, you guys attempt examples 5 and 6, and I'll be right back. Your answers for 5 and 6 are up there. So notice x is equal to negative 3 plus 1/2 y. Notice that that negative 6 goes underneath the 18 and underneath the negative 3. So that's where those two numbers are coming from. Same thing with this. You're dividing by a negative 6. So 12 divided by a negative 6, negative 1 divided by a negative 6. Two negatives make a positive, and there's a 1 in front of that x, so that's where that 1/6 x is coming from. So again, they multiplied by 3 to get rid of the fraction. You can see that happening. When you divide 2 pieces by that number in order to get to that final answer. Okay? All right, this is where I leave you to go ahead and do some of your work. When I see you, you will be taking a test in this class. So your homework is actually going to be your review for your assessment. Make sure you're prepared for your test. I will be giving you a formula sheet, so you do not need to memorize them. Just make sure that you know how to use them for surface area and for volume. I think that's it. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.